Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Guilty as Charged podcast. My name is Steven, and I am the host. Joining me is my guy, Tyler. Tyler, what's up, man? How you doing tonight?
You know, man, I begged for preseason football, and now I'm begging for it to end. The reviews are in. Damage says that game might have been more boring than the first. I think the first one is still more boring, but man, we are it's a lesser of two evils. That was not fun.
No, I think preseason should be one game, and that's it. Let's just give us one preseason game at the end of August and call it good. No, in all seriousness, there was some positives to take away that we'll get into. Obviously, some negatives as well. We already have 129 people in here, so we appreciate all of you guys for tuning in here. Got some super chats that we'll get to here in a minute as well. But as always, make sure like, subscribe, comment. All that stuff does really help continue to grow the show, and we appreciate all of you for doing that. I decided to start on a positive note last week, Tyler. So I think we should do the same again. Is that fair?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. For me, the biggest positive takeaway as it pertains to like the Chargers roster as a whole, Navarro Bowman might actually be him. And these Chargers linebackers are completely dialed in. Every single one of them that played today made an impact. Deion Henley looks like the early candidate for breakout player of the year. Shaq Quarterman comes in after signing this week and forces a fumble. Shane Lee gets a stand at the goal line. He has a pass breakup. He recovers Shaq Quarterman's fumble. This linebacker unit, I know it's not like nationally heralded by any means, but they are always Johnny on the spot. They are physical. They are fast. I have been extremely impressed so far through 2 weeks, the way that Navarro Bowman has had his linebacker unit playing, and there's not a drop off. Deion Henley goes out, backups come in, and it stays the same thing. Nick Neiman didn't play tonight, doesn't matter. This linebacker unit, I think, is going to end up being a real strength of this football team, in large part because Navarro Bowman just seems like he has these guys dialed in to the next level.
Yeah, that's the perfect place to start. If you ask me for a positive and a bigger takeaway, it would have been the linebackers. The linebackers, you pointed out very early in training camp, especially when you were there, you highlighted Deion Henley and how different he looks, how much better he looks. I didn't get to see it. Maybe you read about it, and of course I talked to you, but I haven't seen it. The last 2 weeks, and really definitely tonight, he looks fantastic. And I won't jump all the way in just yet, but man, it's so promising for a guy that, again, converted safety, working through it last year, trying to, well, not stick to the roster, but find a place on the team to contribute to defense or special teams. And this year, man, like I don't know where Junior Colson currently fits in their plans, and I'd get why he isn't in the starting rotation right now. Deion Henley has something going on that is pretty good, and like Perriman's going to start too. It's impressive. The way I feel about the linebackers right now is the way I felt first watching Ryan Ficken when the special teams unit started to have maybe like after like 6 or 7 games, where every single person was dialed in. And if they brought somebody new in, they were dialed in. If they brought another person in, they were dialed in. Like, it's impressive what's being done. And like, we do think this is a solid couple of linebackers that they can work with, but this isn't right now like a ton of great, like first round talent. Amazing. There's no Roquan Smith out there. So what Navarro Bowman is doing with guys, a former 3rd round pick, Perriman's Perriman, but the entire rest of the roster, everyone is so dialed in. I'm genuinely impressed. I really truly do believe that Bowman, like you said, is him. And I tweeted, is him. Like I didn't know what to make of this linebacker core. It was definitely needing somebody, and they got somebody in Junior Colson, but it really is starting to feel like a strength of the defense, outside of edge rusher, of course, being the strength. I'm just very surprised. And, while it is not a ton of, again, first round talent or expensive talent, it's playing lights out right now. It's really impressive.
Yeah, I didn't even mention Troy Dye, who was the key player on the 4th down stop early in the first half. He was the first one to hit the linebacker there. He had a sack last week. So these linebackers, man, I could not be more impressed. The Junior Colson aspect of it all, I think this preseason just allows them to string him along slowly. It was great to see him practice fully this week twice, I believe. Hopefully that can continue. I would love to see him next week, but they don't have to rush him back from this. They can allow him to kind of get his legs back under him, get back, up to speed with the defense, get back up to speed with his conditioning, because I think they really trust Denzel Perryman. I think Deion Henley, like I mentioned, could be the breakout candidate of the year. If one of those guys gets injured, maybe at that point you could then turn to Junior Colson, but I think they could play Nick Niemann or Troy Dye and get away with it. So there's just a lot of depth here. This position, again, Mike Clay did his positional rankings, and I think he had the Chargers linebackers at like 29th. The national media is not going to talk about this Chargers linebacker unit until they see it. And I understand like some of it is just like unproven guys, but this group, I think, is just completely locked in. They're flying around. They're getting their hands on footballs. They're being physical. They're talking. They're communicating. I've just been so impressed. So I know there's a lot of negative stuff, and we're waiting for the quarterback chat, I'm sure. But it is the preseason. I think it is important to kind of talk about some of the other things besides the quarterback issues that are going on right now. And I think the right place to do that today was the linebacker unit.
Definitely. And you pointed out Deion Henley lined up as like a pseudo edge rusher 3 or 4 times tonight.
Yeah, that was really nice to see. On the fourth down early, he was on the edge. Troy Dye was kind of in the middle. Later in the third or in the second quarter, he was on the edge again. When the Rams were on their own one, he blitzed and just destroyed Boston Scott on the blitz. So again, he's showing off a lot of pass rushing chops, and I think that was maybe the weak point of his game in college. And again, Navarro Bowman, I think, deserves a lot of credit for pulling this out of Deion Henley right now.
Yeah, I would agree. I will go with another positive then to carry on with our positivity. You know us. I will go with some receivers, which is also kind of married to a negative, but I believe in no particular order, Quentin Johnston, Simi Fehoko, and Jaelen Gill all deserve shout outs. Jaelen Gill and Simi Fehoko over the last 2 weeks, but Quentin Johnston tonight, I thought, unfortunately, playing kickoff returner in the third quarter and playing some snaps into the third quarter. Although DJ Chark was also out there in the third quarter, so I don't know if that was a
weird rotation tonight.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if they were going to give Luis Perez like better weapons and say like, here, what can you do with this? And of course, he goes right to Quentin Johnston on a comeback. Earlier in the game, it seemed like there was a deep connection there to Quentin Johnston, but there was the illegal contact. I'll see that on all 22. My replay, like my broadcast, didn't show me what happened. So on all 22,
it was a good double move. It was a good double move by him.
Yeah. So I'm excited to watch that one on all 22. And then the catch that didn't count, but he caught the out of bounds catch, and that was fantastic. So I am curious how they view the back end of this receiving core. Quentin Johnston is clearly no better than wide receiver 4, but with Jaelen Gill and his ability as a returner, we haven't seen any targets on as a receiver, but his ability as a returner, and then Simi Fehoko just being the most productive receiver who can also play special teams, who's a veteran who can block. Like Cornelius Johnson is not making this roster based on snaps. That's pretty sure.
Yeah.
I don't believe Brendan Rice is in danger, but right now Brendan Rice hasn't caught a football in 2 games.
Yeah.
And everybody, like, there are other players that are more productive and based on the preseason, more deserving.
Yeah, Brendan's not getting a lot of targets designed for him, which I feel bad for because he's like the one who's blocking the most consistently. But I know that online there were some people kind of freaking out about the Darius Davis thing, about him not being out there to return a whole lot. He was injured a couple weeks ago, so maybe that's kind of, playing into the fact that he's not returning kicks or punts right now. We don't have a ton of details there. But at the same time, they could just be trying to get Jaelen Gill a full look here, and he's been fantastic. I want to say last he had the most kickoff return yards of anybody in the preseason. So Jaelen Gill, if he's just this key special teams ace, and Darius Davis, can focus on offense, I don't know how much I love that, given that Darius Davis was an all-pro punt returner as a rookie. But again, it just gives them some depth. So you and I had them keeping 7 receivers heading into training camp. I don't know if they can really afford to do that. But if they do, I think Simi Fehoko and Jaelen Gill are really making it interesting.
Yeah, if they keep 7, it's not Cornelius Johnson. That was the default early on. Yeah. And he's, and honestly, surprisingly so, not been involved one bit early or often. He does have, I think, the one target, almost a very good catch, but it didn't quite count. Or almost a pretty good grab on the sideline, but he was out of bounds. So yeah, I think I would believe it would be Simi in that case, which I kind of joked about on our first 53-man roster. But like I didn't think Cornelius Johnson would be this far removed from doing anything on the roster. I don't think they keep 7. I think now, especially with signing Tart, who played really well tonight, they're going with 6 defensive tackles, which we didn't predict. I think they're going to keep 4 running backs now based on Jared Patterson and obviously Kimani Vidal or Vidali or Vidal or whatever you wanted to call him tonight. He played obviously very well. So they're keeping 4 running backs. So maybe no fullback opens things up. We'll do our whole roster prediction, but Simi Fehoko is making a case to make the roster.
Yeah, he really is. And that's what the preseason about. It's a shame that the quarterback situation is so unsettled right now that these other receivers can't get sorted out. But I do feel like Brendan Rice, he's had enough work in training camp for them to, feel comfortable with keeping him. He's probably their best blocking receiver. I think he just shows enough of a versatile skill set for them to keep him. But yeah, Kimani Vidal, again, another one here that I think a positive takeaway, completely just dwarfed the other running backs in touches tonight, at least in terms of carries. He had 11 carries. The next closest running back was Jared Patterson with 4. Kimani Vidal, 11 carries, 49 yards. He was really kind of the spark that led to a couple of the scoring drives. So nothing fancy for him, just like really tough physical running. I watched the tape of last week's game, and I did feel like the Patterson-Spiller combination left a lot of meat on the bone, and Vidal was able to come in here and take advantage of that, especially with the starters. He looked fantastic. So, he's been injured. A lot of the fantasy football folks have kind of written him off. Obviously, it didn't help that Daniel Popper, kind of wrote him off as well. But Vidal looked great. To me, he's their 3rd best runner. Now it just kind of becomes a matter of, can you really justify keeping 4 running backs? And what does that look like on game day? Because Patterson, he's got some legit pass catching chops as well. He's a great special teams player for them. So that's a very interesting conversation. But again, like you mentioned, we had 3 running backs, now probably 4. The roster construction that we initially thought has changed a lot over the course of training camp, and it always does. That's usually the case anyway.
Right. Yeah, Vidal. It's funny that the fantasy community would write him off after spending the entire summer hyping just going crazy for Vidal. I bought my Vidal shares, but such is fantasy football, I guess. No, he looked great, and it was nice to see just a consistent runner for those 4, 5, sometimes 3, but then he gets 6 yards. He was never really a guy you watched in college and like, wow, there's the 70-yard run. That really wasn't him. It was just a nice, consistent ball carrier, a college bell cow. I don't know if he'll be that in the NFL, but you feel really good about him being at minimum the 3rd guy, heck, the 4th guy. Patterson tonight, I don't love him as much as a runner, but the one bigger pass that he did catch, he really in that one moment really showed me oh, that's why they're keeping him. Really feels like he has the juice after the catch. So it's a solid group. I thought it was a really solid performance from him and from Vidal tonight.
Well, I just saw Alex's tweet. So I guess this is a good time to get into the quarterback conversation. So apparently Easton Stick did enough today to merit starting week 3 because Jim Harbaugh has announced him to be the starter for the final preseason game. Apparently there was enough improvement throughout the weekend today for him to feel comfortable announcing this right after the game. So it will not be Luis Perez. I thought Perez showed a really nice command of the 10 or 15 plays that he was able to finish off. But yeah, Easton Stick, another week as the starter for the Chargers in the preseason. What are your thoughts there, Tyler? And then we can kind of get into the game.
I wrote an article that said we should end the Easton Stick. That's kind of how at halftime I wrote that. So that's kind of how I feel about it. I'm surprised. Well, no. Okay. I'm not surprised that Easton Stick would be the week 3 starter. I am surprised that Jim Harbaugh would come out and say that right now.
Yeah.
After the game. Especially considering Luis Perez, while not a gangbusters 200-yard game by any means, he did definitely take a step forward tonight. Like watching tonight, I was hoping for better from Easton Stick. I guess technically we did get a little better, but the 2 turnovers were not great. It was not a great day from him. Screen routes were difficult. Throwing a screen was difficult. Throwing to the flat was difficult. And I thought that Luis Perez handled those basic things a lot better. Alex did not help him out on one pass drop back, but yeah, could have gotten rid of the ball, maybe. I don't know. But again, it's been 11 days since this guy, joined the team. So I'm not super judgmental there. He took a step forward. And I wish that Harbaugh would have come out and said, like, again, we'll let things play out.
Yeah.
Because I don't know I don't know if practice in 5 days would be enough to get him to be the QB2, but outright saying it after making competition the big basis of last week's decision is very strange because we just watched Luis Perez take a step forward. I don't know, man. I definitely do not love that. I know that they don't have a ton of options, but like I would have liked to see Luis Perez. Look, even if Harbaugh made it up in his mind that Easton Stick is starting, why come out and say that now? I don't know why you'd come out and say that now. So that's very surprising and a little frustrating.
Yeah, the timing is definitely frustrating because if Easton Stick had played fantastic, okay, I understand that. But he really struggled today. There were a couple of really fantastic throws from him. The deep out route to Simi Fehoko that was right before the interception was a great throw. I know everybody really likes Luis Perez. I don't think Luis Perez can make those kind of throws. I think Luis Perez in a preseason is very much a game manager, and I would like to see him play more. I would like to see him play with some more starters, but Easton Stick does have a little bit more juice to him than Luis Perez does. That being said, Easton Stick is not playing like somebody who has a lot of confidence in himself, in the offense, in his supporting cast, in the offensive linemen. It was a major struggle today. It was the decision-making, the footwork was bad in a sense that I have not seen him execute that way since his rookie season. The interception was purely a footwork decision. He's looking left and he comes back to the middle, and Simi Fehoko was open. It was the right decision, but Easton Stick didn't bring his feet with him, and so the throw was very inaccurate. There were a couple throws that were also very inaccurate, just in general. The decision making was bad. The accuracy was bad. I think they tried to do a better job today of like getting him in rhythm, and I do give Greg Roman some credit for that. But it just felt like, as Ellie Bruin points out, it felt like he was jittery. It felt like he was rushing things. It felt like he did not trust himself. It felt like he did not trust his teammates. It's in a really bad spot for Easton Stick. And I would have thought that after today, with two turnovers, that Jim Harbaugh would kind of let practice play itself out, like you mentioned earlier. So I think Easton Stick, his job is really in jeopardy. I think his roster spot is really in jeopardy. And I think there's a pretty good chance that the backup quarterback for the week 1 against the Raiders is not currently on the roster.
I would agree there. I think that is the correct answer. Truly, we can debate these two quarterbacks. The correct answer is they don't have a true good backup quarterback that we can rely on, and that we think that, let's say Herbert misses week 1. Neither of these guys are getting it done week 1. I don't feel that's the case. No. If you tell me this time next year, Luis Perez is the backup QB2, okay, I could get behind that. But right now, I just don't think he's there. And it's really not fair to ask him to get to that point in such a short amount of time. That's not really fair to Luis Perez. But Easton Stick is not that guy. Obviously, Max Duggan didn't even play tonight. So that's over. That's basically over there. They didn't even want to let him run with the football tonight.
Yeah.
So the correct answer is that there is no backup quarterback on this team that is capable of getting out there and performing based on what we've seen so far. I would love to see Easton Stick rebound tonight. He averaged 250 yards in the regular season last year. I don't think he could average 250 yards in 12 quarters of one game right now. Like it's awful right now. And I don't know if it's bad system fit for whatever reason, complete regression, something's going on in his head and he's, everything's accelerated. I don't know, but it's bad football. Luis Perez maybe could get there, but he's a ways away. He's a good QB3 stash right now. Hope to never have to see him. But yeah, I'm so surprised that Harbaugh would come out and say that.
Yeah, that's really thrown me for a loop as well. Yeah, people asking about Ryan Tannehill. I think that ship has sailed. Again, I think Ryan Tannehill is looking for a starting opportunity. And if they did sign him tomorrow, again, you run into the same thing that you're running into with Luis Perez, where he knows 5 to 10 plays by next Saturday, and then like, what can you run? And Ryan Tannehill is not exactly a supreme athlete at this point in time either. So I think at this point, Easton Stick and Luis Perez are fighting for the practice squad spot. I think Easton Stick would have to blow us all away next week to like really have a spot on this roster. I don't have a good feeling about either of these two making the roster. I don't have a good feeling about either of these two being quarterback two. For all of the Luis Perez talk today, he averaged 3.9 yards per attempt. So it's not like he was awesome either. It looked more comfortable for him. Yeah. Looked like he was more confident. That doesn't automatically mean that he is a better solution at this point in time. So I think if it were me, I would give Perez this week as the starter, run with the first team offense, see what he can do next week, and have one big audition, so to speak, like Taylor Heineke did today, which if the Chargers wanted to call the Atlanta for that, fine. But I don't trust either of these quarterbacks to be quarterback two at this point in time, personally.
No, I definitely do not. We advocated in the offseason for, a different quarterback, or at least a different quarterback to a true veteran backup. But even at that point, we felt, everyone at least felt a little bit better about Easton Stick. After now, I don't know how Joe Ortiz can look at this roster, or how Jim Harbaugh can look at the quarterback play and say, yeah, we're good. We can do that. And, I don't recall exactly how great Phillip Rivers' backups were. But that was an Iron Man guy who never left the field.
Yeah.
He never left the field. Or Justin Herbert's got some injury history. And I can't imagine you look at this group and go, yeah, we'll be set. For the one game, we got to have it. Herbert might be hurt in week, 14, let's say. Something happens, and they got to win this game. I just don't believe that either of these guys are that guy. I don't have any less faith in Luis Perez. It's more just realistic about where he's at right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you look at Phillip Rivers' backups, obviously Billy Volek was a former starting quarterback. Like, that was a guy who had a ton of experience. We never really got to see a ton of Kellen Clements or Charlie Whitehurst, so I don't think any of us can really confidently say that they were quality backups. But then you had Geno Smith, Tyrod Taylor. Like, yeah, it was pretty good, at the end of his career. So, it's tough, man. I think heading into training camp, I felt pretty good about where Easton Stick was at. And I went and watched, some of the end of the season games last year. And I said that, and I don't think we're watching the same player. Like, I just have not seen a guy who is trusting himself. He's not throwing the ball confidently. He's hesitating 3 or 4 times a game to throw the ball. And I think maybe that was a credit to the coaching staff last year of just like, hey, we have nothing to lose. Our season's over. You're not Justin. Like, just grip it and rip it. And maybe Easton is just like not in that same headspace where he's just not playing confidently. I don't know if that is fixed in 1 week of practice. I just don't. So it's tough, man, because I think he showed enough last year to warrant that contract and warrant coming back. But this player right now that we are seeing is a practice squad player. This is not a guy that you can trust as a quarterback too.
No. And if it were, the offense is calling vanilla plays and it's just the preseason, like in camp, there was a report this week that he went 0 for 8 on third downs, on third down attempts this week, or at least during that one practice. They're not practicing well either. So yeah, I really don't know what to do with this group. Got to find somebody else. We made a video 4 days ago, and we talked about backup quarterbacks. Go watch it. Go pump up the views, guys, because the Chargers got to be active there.
Yeah, and I think it's got to be somebody who knows the offense. So Tyler Huntley, somebody pointed out Josh Johnson make the Chargers his 17th team in the NFL or whatever. Something's got to change. I don't see how this regime feels great with this. If this were Tom Telesco's regime, I think you probably just ride with Stick. But I think Joe Ortiz has shown already that he is not afraid to turn over this roster and make moves to get this in a much better spot. So I think we could see this team pull a 2022 Lions where they cut both backup quarterbacks and then they sign somebody else after cut down day, or maybe they trade for somebody this week. But it's in a really bad spot. And these are not issues that are just easily solvable. Like if Easton Stick were just like throwing a couple like poor passes, or there's some drops, or they were just like some procedural issues, I think that's one thing those are things that are correctable. But lack of confidence, bad footwork, like these are things that take a lot of time to fix. And I just don't know. I trust Jim Harbaugh and his staff a lot. I don't know if I trust them to fix a guy's confidence in a week.
I'm honestly surprised that it's Greg Roman's offense that is giving him the most problems right now. Not Kellen Moore.
Very simple offense. They're not doing a ton of complexity. Kellen Moore's offense last year was way more complex than anything we have seen so far in practice or training camp.
Yeah. So I'm surprised if you gun to my head which one would he struggle with more. I wouldn't have guessed this one. And again, I do not know why. I saw somebody mention in here. Where is it? Kurt Benkert on line 1. That's funny. Did you see his tweet today? He decided to say that the Chargers are taking the spot for him for the worst team in the NFL this year, and that they will blow up the team and trade Herbert in 2 years. So no, I'm not calling him, is what I'm trying to say.
I think Sholoman is doing that sarcastically, because I did see him quote that exact same tweet. So
yeah,
man, it's got to be somebody who's familiar with the offense. Hopefully we can get this situation solved sooner than later, but it's just in a really bad spot now. You want to get to some of these super chats and then we can
let's do it. We got 6 of them.
Okay. All right, 6 of them in here. Gary Rockwell, Kimani Vidal on the active roster. I think yes. I think he's their 3rd best running back. So I think that was very clear tonight. So hopefully that is the case as he gets healthier and healthier.
Yeah, never bought him being off the roster.
Noah Alderete, the notification saying Easton Stink, Alex Leather ass, and Brennan Heim ass are going to cure my soul, he says.
Okay, 2 of those make sense. Leather is leather wood. So I don't know where we got leather ass from. Leather, would you block someone? Like maybe that. But
there you go. Yeah. There you go.
The Trey McKitty one last year always made me laugh. I could never say it out loud, but it always made me laugh.
Yeah. Alex Leatherwood is probably the worst player on the field tonight. That was bad. And then Tyler McClellan came in and I was like, yeah, let's go. And then it was bad again.
Really bad.
Very, very bad. I think the pressure numbers are going to be worse than last week for him. It was every play I felt like Alex Leatherwood was getting beat. So, it was a worthwhile shot for the Chargers. They're in a state where they can take this kind of risk. I think Alex Leatherwood, unfortunately, has played himself out of this organization. Yeah,
not great. 6 pressures last week. Could see about the same tonight, but definitely also that sack, which is going to make his pass blocking efficiency really bad.
Yeah. Definitely still in the 80s, which is not great in the preseason.
No.
Mark Trestman sitting next to Roman means Trestman is calling the pass plays most likely. I don't think so. I think this is Greg Roman's offense. I know that when I asked Jim Harbaugh about Mark Trestman, he called him an architect of offense. Mm-hmm. And people took that as he is the architect of this offense. That is not the case. From my understanding of the situation, Mark Trestman is, as a senior assistant is helping in very specific things that are unrelated to play calling. So Greg Roman is the offensive coordinator. He is calling all the plays. So I appreciate the super chat, but yeah, this is Greg Roman's offense. He's doing everything right now.
I don't know. I don't recall now how they divvied it up, but is he part of game management as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
They haven't publicly said that, but I heard that when I was there. Somebody else told me it from outside the building. So yeah, Mark Trestman's role as a senior assistant is a lot of game management. It's a lot of film study packages and things like that. So he definitely is an important coach on this roster, and he definitely is having an impact. But this is Greg Roman's offense. I think this question is probably coming up because when Jim Harbaugh was with the 49ers, they did have multiple play callers. And I think he did that at Michigan a couple of times. But that's not happening now. This is Greg Roman's ship basically on offense. All right, I have a next one here. Said thoughts on Tart? ? And Lee should definitely have a spot on the roster. I assume that is Shane Lee, but yeah, it was funny seeing Tyler Tart play in the fourth quarter in a preseason game. But he had 2 run stops, 1 tackle for loss. Good to see him out there. Good to see him getting some run. We spoke very highly about him on Thursday, so if you missed that, you can go check that out. What do you make of Shane Lee's chances to get on this roster as linebacker 6?
Yeah, he's going to be one of those, unfortunately, have to not make the roster guys, but you're really hoping he does make the practice squad. Showing up, showing well, 2 weeks in a row, good in practice, it seems. Honestly, the fact that we're talking about the 7th maybe linebacker on the team so positively speaks to just how good he is. Like, usually at this point, we don't know the names, we don't care as much. Lee's doing very, very well. And the fact that we're getting a super chat question about him speaks to how well he's doing.
Yeah, I think unfortunately he's probably spot like 56 or 55 on the roster. Just like really, if somebody gets injured, then I think you
instant call up. Yep.
Instant call up, right? I think you feel great about where he's at. It's just really tough for me to justify 6 linebackers on this roster right now, just with all of the different needs and defense tackle, running back, receiver. Like, those are all positions where you still got to get a lot of sorting out. Whereas linebacker, like you pretty much know your 5 are in their pecking order at this point in time. So he's playing great. I think he deserves a lot of shout out for his play in the preseason. And hopefully the Chargers are able to keep him on the practice squad. Yeah. Cody Spencer says he has his fantasy football draft tomorrow. Where would you draft different Chargers? Is Ladd in the 5th, 6th too early? JK or Gus, first Chargers running back to draft? This is the first year since I was in middle school where I am not doing fantasy football. So I have no idea where people's ranges are or any of that. I can give some advice here just based off of the players, but are you doing fantasy this year? And do you have any thoughts on this question?
My coworkers and I might do a league, but we'll see. But I'm certainly not as into it as I have been. Like you, I've done one every year since I don't even recall.
Yeah.
Like when Arian Foster just became a thing and Ray Rice was still in the league. Not that that's 50 years ago, but it's been a minute. Ladd in the 5th or 6th, I have no idea where that even is on a board of teams, but go for it. He looked very good in his 1 reception tonight. JK or Gus, first Chargers running back to draft. I mean, technically you would draft Gus first, but I'd rather wait for JK Dobbins, I think.
Yeah.
As long as injuries are all good by then, which should be fine.
Yeah, I think I'm probably not drafting any Chargers offensive players, honestly, if I were doing fantasy football. There's just too much uncertainty right now. Like, I think Ladd could lead the team in receiving in terms of receptions, but I think Palmer could lead this team in yards, and I think TJ Chark could lead this team in touchdowns. Like, it's kind of a mess right now from a fantasy football perspective. Running back wise, I think you're probably better suited to take JK wherever he's at, because if JK is right, and he on the K Adams show this week said that he's back to college JK, if JK is right, he's a top 10 running back in this league. I just don't know how likely it is that he actually gets there.
Yeah. And then you throw Kimani Vidal. How much of a rotation is it? And even Gus at his peak was, how many carries did he have last year? $150, 200.
It was probably closer to 200. He did have close to 1,000 yards last year. I think he had
the yards will definitely be there, but he's certainly not a. And then if it's PPR, obviously, like you're not getting a ton from Gus Edwards there.
Yeah.
So.
And Jared Patterson might have the third down role. So.
Yeah.
I feel like you can take some dart throws on the Chargers late for sure, but I'm probably avoiding that if I were doing fantasy. Ivan again here wants to know if there's any other undrafted free agents we could be interested in, or maybe that is this specific team. I don't know.
I think he makes the ones that are on the team.
The ones that are on the team. We talked about Shane Lee. I was really hoping for more from Tremont Morris-Brash today. He had a good run stop, I want to say, but after
the way
he's been performing, I didn't feel like he had many pressure. So that was kind of disappointing, but I think he's probably the one that has the best chance to make it, right?
He's the only guy that's healthy, I think, at this point. So it's either him. Collins was pushing a little bit today, but right now, Farmer was not practicing. I think Shelby was not practicing. I don't know if they played or suited up, but
I think Shelby played today.
Did he? Okay. So him, and then of course Thomas Harper. I think he's my safety 4 at this point. Like for all the athletic upside that JT Woods has, Thomas Harper isn't as tall, but he covers well. He can actually like play slot, play corner if needed, can be a safety, will contribute on special teams, is as athletic. Give me Thomas Harper at this point, and obviously over Tony Jefferson as well.
Yeah, Tony Jefferson is apparently also injured right now. JT Woods is playing outside cornerback today. So Thomas Harper, that's a good call out. We were big fans of his from a film standpoint. He should have had an interception today. He was, one of the many that was this close to getting one. So he's had a good camp. He's playing good on special teams. Now that you mentioned that, he's probably the one I would prefer in terms of the undrafted free agents, just because I think he is who I would want at safety 4. But Morris Brash, if he has a strong next week, that's potentially the one. And you mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. You had heard that this team wants to keep a 5th edge rusher because they have 3 great ones who will not play special teams, and Thule, who I would like to see play special teams less. So maybe there's still a good chance for Morris Brash. On a related note, we didn't talk about this earlier, but Chris Rumpf seen in a walking boot today. Again, Harbaugh's quote was that he's going to miss some time. Mm-hmm. So it is going to be interesting to see how they handle that. Is that a make the 53 and then short-term IR after that? Or is it just outright like injury reserve, season over type deal for Chris Rumpf? Hopefully it's not the latter, but for his sake. But that is definitely something that they will have to keep in mind as they build this roster out next week or 2 weeks.
Yeah, definitely a bummer. And I wonder if his injury does change the calculus of, there's a 5th spot. And then 2 other guys also went down or were hurt a couple of times. So it's like, we really have like 1 guy now. And I don't know if that kind of changes their numbers there. Like maybe Harper makes it as a 5th safety.
Yeah. We got Tara in here. Appreciate her as always. She said, first, appreciate you both and sorry if you already talked about it, but how does Stick miss a wide open, not moving wide receiver? I think we did discuss this briefly, but I just don't think he's playing confidently right now. His footwork's kind of a mess. His ball placement is not as good as it was last year. So it's just he's in a bad spot mentally, I think, more than anything else right now.
Yeah, it was really frustrating to watch. Again, even a screen, he's throwing it 2 feet over 5'8" Darius Davis. Just the fundamentals aren't even there. It's not even like he can't make the big throws or that he can't, score 3 touchdowns. The fundamentals are all gone. So, yeah, not great. Yes, even fumbling at the 1 yard line, which I got like 1 replay. It seemed to just be him. I didn't see anything where it was like a snap issue, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the play at the goal line was firmly on Easton Stick. Mm-hmm. Some good news that I missed earlier from Alex is that Harbaugh said that Justin Herbert is on track to play week 1. So he said that earlier briefly this week. God. So thank God, yes. Well, it'd be great to see our franchise quarterback back out there. Hopefully sometime soon. I don't think he plays next week. I think they're not
good.
So
No. I would rather watch another just entire game of Max Duggan than have Herbert risk anything at this point.
They should just like social experiment this and play Max Duggan the whole game and just run the triple option. Just like run the ball every play and see if they can get away with it and see if they can score more touchdowns that way than actually trying to throw the football. Like
they're averaging 6 points a game. So like even if you get blanked, it's only 0. You're only off by 6. So like, it's fine. I would be down to see that. I'm fine for the social experiment.
Yeah, just quarterback power every other play and read option it and let's go. Wow, a lot of super chats from Ivan today. Appreciate him. This is Cameron Dicker Pro Bowl season. Dude's incredible, man. It's just like I think it was Matt Money Smith or DJ last week were saying that he's just got like a golf draw. It's just like he just kicks a pretty ball. It sounds weird to say that because I've never really seen that from a Chargers kicker. but he's awesome. Just makes a 55-yarder from today look super easy.
I know it was the preseason, so maybe that was part of it. But they're like, oh, he's going to kick a 55-yarder. I just went to my phone. I just went to I didn't even watch the football. Everyone talks about how he kicked it. I'm like, I don't know. I didn't watch it. He just made it, right? He made it. Automatic. I think he's on his way to a Pro Bowl, which is a fan voted thing. And if he is as good as he was last year, if not better, we got to get him there. That's on us.
Yeah. I will say it's going to be very different watching the Chargers be conservative this year. But that might mean that Cameron Dicker leads the league in field goals. I don't know. We'll see how that works out. But he's going to have a great season. He's fantastic. Last one here from Ivan. He says, is Tua's brother available or is he still in college? Taulia, I think his name is. I don't know the answer to this question, but I appreciate the super chat.
Was it Maryland last year, right?
Yes.
I will tell you that based on my one Google search and whatever Wikipedia says, he is with the Hamilton Tiger Cats of the CFL.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Says Wikipedia, which is reliable.
Deets 18 says Derwin James for QB2.
I wouldn't be opposed. In this case, drawing penalties would be a good thing. So,
Anthony Rhodes said, "Who are some waiver guys keeping your eye on?" We'll do some tweets, or Tyler might write an article about that. But I've got to look more into some of these preseason guys first.
Yeah. It's tough. I don't know which random UDFA is beating out veteran that I thought was better, but I don't watch. So, but as far as quarterbacks, Tyler Huntley, DTR, I think it was Chase Daniel who pointed out they had basically identical stats today. So one of those guys, I'm down for that. If for some reason the Seahawks don't keep PJ Walker, cool, but I think they will. Anybody with a pulse. Rivers, if he wants to come back. Charlie Whitehurst is probably still around. Mina Kimes. Andrew Whitworth.
Hey, Andrew does look like he could play quarterback now.
You can see over the line.
Yeah.
Great communication, good center communication.
Rowdy Check says LT can throw. That's so bad. Talk about Derwin James and LaDainian Tomlinson playing quarterback for this team. Oh my gosh.
It would get my butt in the seat. I would pay extra money.
Yeah. All right, that's it for the super chats here. Have to tell you guys real quickly about our friends over at Prize Picks, the best and easiest way to consume daily fantasy sports. Tyler's mom has had a wonderful time doing Prize Picks. I have had a good time doing it as well. Super easy to use, very user friendly. It is the easiest way to get some extra skin in the game. All you have to do is pick selected players and choose more or less than on their given numbers. And off you go. So you can choose 3 players, 4 players, 5 players, 10 players. There's different crossovers from time to time. The WNBA is back in full swing right now. If that's more of your cup of tea, Major League Baseball, ramping up towards the NFL, obviously. So you can go to prizepicks.com/guilty for a deposit match up to $100 on your first wager. And that is prizepicks.com/guilty, code guilty. All right, Tyler, let's wrap up for today. Anybody else that you want to give a shout out or anything that stood out to you from a scheme standpoint that Jesse Minter did or anything like that?
Nothing new, I would say. Clearly, he's not going to take his foot off the pedal. He's still sending everybody. So that's not going to change at all, regardless who's out there. I'm sure he's having fun doing it because he can do whatever he wants in the preseason, and it doesn't really matter. We covered Vidal, whatever you want to call him. I don't even know anymore. We still have Tuipulotu or whatever it was. So we're in mid-season form with the Thule pronunciations. And then Whitworth couldn't even get 3 letters together of that name. I would probably prepare if I were covering a team, but that's just me. I think that's it, dude. I think that's it. I wish I could shout out any more players on offense, but I can't. There was no way to evaluate most of these guys. I think the offensive line outside of Leatherwood was better.
It felt that way. It did feel like they were better.
It wasn't playing Byron Murphy.
No.
So, or Boye Mafe or Chenan Nwosu.
Yeah, I do want to go back and watch the film there, but it felt like the offensive line in general was a lot better today. Obviously the starting unit, I expect a lot out of them. So it was good to see them get kind of an extended drive and actually, get some snaps in. So that was good.
Yeah.
Tarib still, I thought looked pretty good today. Had a pass breakup, had a nice tackle, had a pressure. Dean Leonard obviously had the interception. He's had a very strong training camp and a strong preseason to start. He did have the one horse collar tackle, but he's really taken a big step forward. Yeah. And it was, if we're being technical, it was more of a hip drop tackle than a horse collar tackle. But, it is what it is. But he's had a great camp. He looks great. Ball skills are fantastic. He is firmly cornerback 4. I've been asking about Cam Hart. I saw him out there a little bit, but he's been injured. So, it's unfortunate that we haven't been able to get a real good look at him. But, Dean Leonard looks fantastic. Tarib still had his best day, of the preseason, obviously, for the 2 weeks. So that was good to see too.
Dean Leonard, I don't know where we're going to be at next year. It's difficult to say based on the preseason, but I'm getting close to saying I'm comfortable with him being a starter next year in year 4. Yeah, year 4? Yeah.
At least challenge for a spot, potentially.
Definitely. Not an unquestioned starter.
Yeah, he's improved every single year, and there's no reason to think that he won't again next year. Asante will be a free agent in the offseason. Christian Fulton's a free agent in the offseason. I don't think you can bring both of them back. If they both merit that is obviously another question, but it would be tough for me to see them bringing back both guys. So, yeah, man, I think this defense, like I'm certainly not buying them in the sense of being like an elite defense, but I think adding Taylor Tart, the way the linebackers are playing, the way that the secondary is playing right now, I'm getting more and more cautiously optimistic about that unit heading into the season. So I think Jesse Minter deserves a ton of credit. We know they're going to be aggressive and creative, but man, it's fun times for the defense right now. Even if they're not great, I think they'll be feisty, frisky, whatever kind of adjective you want to use. But Jesse Minter has them like they're just consistently on receivers all the time. It's just really great to see. So I've loved what I've seen from the defense so far. The offense, not so much. We got one more preseason game left for the Chargers next week.
Yeah, the defense looks miles ahead of the offense right now, and I get that that's the thing that we're supposed to say. The defense is supposed to be ahead of the offense, but Jesse Minter is just walking in from college, and we're not just talking about the veteran edge rushers. We're talking about all these guys. I mean, Ivan points out the DBs are flying to the football. I feel like everyone on defense is elevated. I don't know what their floor was, but they all feel just a bit more elevated. They're playing pretty sound, pretty good football, complimentary football. Obviously, the score indicates that they're playing well too. I'm impressed, man. I feel a lot better. I genuinely do feel worse about this offense, but I feel a lot better about this defense because I feel like whatever we're about to see from the actual starters, it's going to be better overall than what I thought because the question mark position groups are playing just a bit better.
Yeah. That's totally fair. And once you get these edge rushers in here, once you get Derwin James playing, Alohi didn't play today, did he? Or did he play?
He was a game captain. And then I don't recall if he played after that.
Okay. But I think once you get the star players in there, obviously it's going to change a lot of things. They're also not going to be playing backups. We do have to clarify that. I don't think a single Rams starter played today. So,
no.
But it's the process, I think, that counts right now.
Yeah.
But if this defense can be the 18th best defense, the offense is, in the top 15 once they get Justin Herbert kind of up to speed with this schedule, with this coaching staff, that's a playoff team, in my opinion. But we'll get to that point when we get there. All right, Tyler, any other final thoughts before we head out?
One more week, guys. The Chargers go on the road this time, and hopefully it's a quarterback bonanza. Hopefully it's really, really fun, and then we can have some sort of hope because we're now asking for a backup quarterback, a new quarterback, a different quarterback, At the same time, Jim Harbaugh's out there saying, yep, Easton Stick is our QB2. I think he improved. Hope he improves again. So as much as we ask for it, he might be the quarterback 2. He's currently on pace to be the quarterback 2. So at least I just hope that in the third game of the preseason, he gets rid of those issues and plays really well so we can at least have some hope heading into week 1, even though he doesn't have to play.
Yeah. The hope is obviously that Justin Herbert comes back. So, but yeah, we are 1 week away from college football starting. Next week, there will be college football games on your TV. Week after that, everybody else, college football does the week 0 thing. They have some international games and things like that. But we're 2 weeks away from actual college football coming back, 3 weeks away from the NFL season coming back. It felt like fall-ish weather when I took my dog on a walk this morning, which is great. We had like the hottest July in Fresno history, and August so far, knock on wood, has been pretty cool. So it's good little fall weather in the morning. So hopefully you guys are having a great time as we ramp up towards the start of football season. All right, that's going to do it for us tonight. Again, make sure like, comment, subscribe. All that stuff really does help continue to grow the show. Tell a friend who can tell another friend. That'd be fantastic. Once we get started with the regular season, we're going to have a lot of great stuff to talk about. We're changing a little bit of our weekly rundown, so we'll have some more details a bit there. We will obviously always continue to do our live recaps every single week after the Chargers games, at least within a few hours, depending if Tyler or I are at the games or not. All right, guys, appreciate it. Thanks so much for tuning in. This has been another episode of the Guilty as Charged podcast. We'll see you next time. As always, bolt up.